Yeah, that's recording now.
Yes, we're recording. So this is our, we have probably, this is our first weekly Tesla Shuttle, Tesla owner webinar chat, where we're going to talk about what it's like with the Tesla or with multiple Teslas, with other electric cars, and how that works, for personal ownership and also for business kind of service, city-to-city shuttle or on-demand taxi, Uber, Lyft service, this kind of thing, just to try to help give people some of the more like day-to-day perspective of what it's like with a Tesla and with a Tesla-related transport business. So we've had over a year now a Model S in Poland for city-to-city shuttles, airport pickups. We've tried all kinds of things. We've had a lot of fun with different types of work with the car. It's very high demand for weddings, interestingly. And today we're actually going to chat more not about Tesla, because Tomek has had the opportunity to test drive some awesome new electric vehicles lately and compare them to his EVs. And I also had the chance to drive Model 3. So we're going to compare that a little bit with Model S.
Can you stop showing off, please?
Yeah, sorry. I was trapped in Europe for a long time without being able to see or drive a Model 3. Now I see them like every day. And no offense to the people driving them, but you often look, who's driving? It's like, it's an old guy, maybe retired, maybe close to retirement. And you think, man, these guys have just been are so lucky to get some of the first Model 3s and get to drive them around. They must feel awesome. But I haven't had the opportunity to connect with many of them. I was wondering, because they're highly prioritizing the high margin Model 3s, obviously, for financial reasons, to try to get into the black and get the Tesla short sellers off their back. So I was wondering, like, why wouldn't they prioritize sending the performance Model 3s to Europe once they're ready? And they're starting to get produced now, so theoretically they could start sending very high spec Model 3s to Europe and they've sent 100 to Tesla stores around the US now of these performance Model 3s, which are blowing people away, of course. But yeah, from your guys' perspective, what are maybe 2 or 3 highlights from the past year or over a year with a Tesla shuttle service in Poland? What are 2 or 3 things that stand out to you as interesting or surprising about the car and the responses of people? Maybe start with Tomek.
Yeah, for me it was for sure the wedding. There is so many young couples are interested in having Tesla as a so rare car to have on the wedding. That was totally surprising. And also and the other edge was that it's not so much of interest from the private people to drive between cities in Tesla. Maybe companies are more aware of the difference where the transportation is going. Just it is going electric, and this is nice and trendy to go in the electric Tesla. But still, for private people, I don't see so much interest as I was expecting.
It seems that we believe and we like electric vehicles so much that we were sure that if we say, hey, we have a Tesla and we can take you from city to city, people would just bombard us, and we would have to close the door to take all the orders. That didn't happen.
And I think, right. I think part of the issue too is we expected, if you make the case, if you have a compelling offer that's going to actually save you money, if you don't drive, it costs more to not drive, but you can work or do other stuff. And the difference when you subtract the fuel cost, if you were driving from city to city, is not so dramatic, and it's less than a gas taxi or something. So we thought the case would be made by itself But I think we expected people would be more used to Uber and that kind of thing, and more used to this idea of being transported by someone. And I think it's been more of a cultural, psychological hurdle than we expected it in Poland, at least, Europe, Germany, Poland, where...
To me, the surprising thing was how easily people accepted charging as we did the trips Wrocław to Berlin, which is like 350 kilometers. Most of the times we chose to have a short stop and charge a bit. And it was good to see that, you know, most passengers were just okay with it. They didn't question the fact. They actually enjoyed the coffee and, you know, the fact that they could charge the car while having the coffee, and it was enough. So that was a positive thing really in the experience. On the other hand, I'd still choose connections that you can do without charging. It's just smoother, quicker, and easier.
Tomek, how far is that? One of our main routes has been Wrocław to Berlin. How many kilometers is that? That's
just from the center to center is just below 400.
below 400. A few hours. If a few hours with charging, and basically we just have to stop for a charge for like 15 minutes on the way in or out.
Yeah, we just start charging in Kostomoty next to Wrocław for like 15 minutes, as you said, and just before Berlin, 60 kilometers before Berlin, we again 15 to 30 minutes.
And we were concerned that this would, concerned to tell people, hey, we're gonna have to stop, but they really don't mind getting a coffee, going to the bathroom on the way. We haven't had I haven't heard of from any of the drivers any issues with this. But at the same time, it sort of sets a sort of minimum bar. Like if we had to charge more, that would be a problem. If we had to charge longer, if you had to stop twice instead of once, that would be a problem. So the way I often see Tesla's supercharging network and range is that it's basically the minimum satisfactory for road trips, for long distance driving, depending on how flexible you are. Tomek, you've been driving some other electric vehicles lately. Jaguar I-PACE, Nissan, the new Nissan LEAF with how much range?
I don't really care about the numbers written in the prospectus.
Yeah.
I will tell you what I maybe I did like 1,000 kilometers, maybe a bit more. I was from Łódź to Krakow, from Łódź to Warsaw, and a few other routes. So I think this car in the summertime can do quite easily 250 kilometers, and probably in winter it might be around 200, but it's just like never will go below that. So that's like super sure.
And you're talking about fast driving on the highway.
Normal 100, 120, air conditioning, everything. That's just driving normal.
Are you taking into account your super duper skills of driving electric vehicles? Because I know that when we drive a Tesla and we are going the same route, you go one way, I go the other way, you always get better figures, right? So your consumption is just like 15% lower than mine.
Just all the time I have a wind to my back. That's
it. True.
Yeah, and normally we have drivers doing routes, but once in a while we drive the routes as well. And Tomek is very a good driver for that. But if it's not for a business route, I advise people to be very, very considerate if they are thinking about joining Tomek for a long distance drive, because he scares the crap out of me, because he's very good at this. What's it called? What's the word for this? Drafting. He's very good at drafting. But
what do you mean about? Yeah, I'm not doing it in Tesla because it's not really so effective. In Tesla, I don't know. It's maybe because the car is so heavy and it's very smooth, like
it's very aerodynamic itself.
Yeah,
so.
And then maybe other factors. But in old Leaf, like 2013, that I owe for like 5 years almost now, this really works then. So it's really helpful to go 150 kilometers. It's almost impossible with no drafting.
And it seems that Tomek is made for drafting. I am not made for drafting. But yeah, so to be clear, yeah, he's had a Leaf for 5 years in Poland, and sometimes to go from city to city, this is the only way to get there without getting towed.
Actually now it's changing because we have quick chargers, because Greenway is doing really good job, and we have almost every week we have more next quick chargers in Poland, so it's getting better.
So we had this massive launch last week, right? Of 20-something chargers. They kept waiting for the right regulations to kick in, and so we had the biggest launch ever
from Greenway.
Yeah,
we need to write about it, but they're really leaders. I mean, they're leaders in the region, but this kind of growth is kind of leadership globally. You don't see this kind of growth in a lot of places, a lot of companies. So Tomek, taking your perspective of having a Tesla and driving city to city many times in Tesla and around, you did a road trip around parts of Eastern and Central Europe.
Balkans, Albania.
The Balkans. Can you give a little bit of a sense, the new Nissan Leaf, can you give a sense how it compares, how it matches for that kind of not just city use, but city to city use, and kind of, would you find it an adequate car for people who need to drive from city to city from time to time, maybe want to do a business with it like we do with Tesla Shuttle?
I mean, I think it's more economic car, just because it's smaller, and it has of course a smaller battery, so 40 kilowatt hours. That's significantly less than Tesla. So it's better to charge it at home. But actually, in quick chargers, it doesn't really matter so much. But still, it's the shorter time to charge the car with a smaller battery. I find this car, this new Leaf, as almost the same powertrain and batteries, but in the very new, nice packaging. Yeah. So I actually waiting for the Leaf with 60 kilowatt hour battery.
Yeah.
And this is going to be for me the possibly the car that I really wanted to have, even having Tesla, but I don't know, for wife or for really a car to be you're not really...
This is a level for Nissan that's really going to put it at the level of, more or less at the level of Tesla Model 3 and competitive in that market. But two quick questions. One, to picture it all better, what color were you driving?
Brown.
Okay, a brown. Oh my, that's cool. I love
brown.
it.
Yeah, it was really nice car. It wasn't looking like electric. So previously it was looking at the first,
Yeah, I see a lot of Nissans around here that I'm like, is that a Leaf or is it? And it's normally not a Leaf. The new one. I have seen a new Leaf here, but there's other Nissan model that is very similar and just looks more normal. But the brown looks really good, and you can camouflage yourself in the woods and do kinds of anyway. But second question.
Surprisingly, for me, it was that it has the very technical thing, but it has a plug Type 2 plug in front, not Type 1, which I was expecting to have. So they resigned. Actually, in Europe, I don't know how it's in US. I don't know. Yeah. It's still Type 2 there.
I'm not sure, but the US, generally speaking, charging is a day-to-day destination charging is a bit of a pain in the butt, because we have typically, I mean, it works fine for us, but in Europe you have 22 kilowatt often, and here we often have 6 kilowatt.
Okay.
So you can imagine going from 22 kilowatt to 6 kilowatt. You're like, why do we not?
This time it doesn't matter, because I think onboard charger it's 6.6, so it doesn't go higher anymore.
Right.
So you have shut them all still, and Type 2 as a slower charging. Yeah.
So you have what we often have here in the US is 6.6 kind of kilowatt.
Yeah, that's what you get.
So the second question was, so you know, a lot of talk and the big remaining criticism is that the Nissan batteries in this new Leaf are still this non-thermally managed, so they're not managed to optimize longevity and range in some cases. So a lot of people are holding off, like you, for this next step, which is supposed to be LG Chem battery, I think, that's thermally managed, bigger, good. But for your use, testing it, and you also drove this car to Wales, right? Or it was this?
No, I was driving to Wales the previous Leaf. It was 2017, I think, and it was 33 kilowatt-hour battery.
Okay, but so with this one, the 40 kilowatt, is that something you sort of can notice, or you think has a kind of effect?
I think in 2013, Leaf was like the totally solid range was 100 kilometers, and next time with 33 kilowatts there was 150. Like it's very hard to not to do it, and now it's even in winter it's going to be possible to do 200 kilometers. So I think it's a really like step forward, but maybe a lot of people looking at the car, how different it is. Maybe they expected even more in technical area.
Right. Yeah.
But I think it's a good step to have now a maybe a bit older technology with new package, and next year.
And there's a kind of wide expectation. What Nissan often does when they roll out the next technology is they still offer the previous one at a lower price, so you can get actually a pretty solid offer for an affordable, like in the US, 29,000 or starting price, which you know you can't get a long range electric car for 29,000. Can you say, you know, taking that into account and really comparing your experience with the Tesla Model S, which is an 85D, which we got in part because it has a longer range than other Teslas, some other Teslas. Can you say, like, if it's a normal person, not an early adopter, and they decide, hey, I want to go electric finally, how do you think it feels to have such a car for your daily use or even your business use?
Yeah, I think with this range 200 and being so like the car looks inside and outside like grown up. It's kind of ready to. It's not you know. Yeah, it's ready to be. I think it's gonna have a lot of good experiences in this car, and it can be the first electric vehicle in family, and maybe next is gonna be, I don't know, Tesla or Jaguar or something, but this is a good try to have.
So
it'll be a family car, but a second car, right? Is that what you mean when you say it's for family? I don't want to go into stereotypes, but it would be the wife's car, right? That goes within the city.
Be. Yeah, it was city car, and if we go to vacations, we can switch. But still, I was going to Krakow, which is like 270 kilometers from Łódź, and I charged like 11 minutes then. So I just, you know, pop into the...
And that gets to the essence of my question, I guess, too, because a lot of people don't go city to city that much. They don't drive city to city that much. As long as it works around the city, it could work. And if it works, like you said, for a kind of regional nearby city, I mean, that's a couple hours. Łódź and Krakow a couple hours away, or? Yeah,
it's 4 hours, like normal drive. Yeah.
So 4 hours.
Yep.
So I mean, that's the extent of what a lot of people need for like a trip. So if they just have to stop to charge once in a while, and if they're saving on gas costs, you know, it could all be worthwhile for them. But the I lost my question. What was? But
I think when you meant about the range, it's we all know that it's enough, even traveling city to city, even 200 or 300 or 400 kilometers, because you know you just need a short charge, right? Yeah. Most people choose it as the second car in the family, even people who go electric, because they don't trust the range, and it's kind of normal. They will get used to it. We talked about it quite a few times. You buy it as a second car, and it very quickly becomes your first car because it's better and nicer to drive, so you use it more often, right?
Yeah, and
it'll be a process.
I think the second car idea is what triggered this. This thought too was if you really want to be cautious about your spending, but you want to get in soon, it sounds like a good option is to wait for the new one to be unveiled and the price of this one to drop, and then this will be most likely the most affordable longish range car you could get, except maybe the top selling electric car in Europe is the Zoe, the Renault Zoe. So we don't have that over here in the US, but in Europe you have the Renault Zoe, and both of you have driven that a bit. Jacek, I know
loved it.
You had a few days with it, you loved it, but you know, you had it before the Tesla, and
yes,
you always have a good way of thinking about the normal person's perspective, and you have, you know, a wife like both of us have, who is maybe less forgiving if the technology is not there yet. I don't know.
I mean,
so how?
We used it for about a week, like non-stop. You know, all my family. So we did trips. I went to work. You know, just used it as a normal car. I left my car in the garage.
And you would see it as a fully adequate second car or something like this for.
Obviously, I could easily do 200 kilometers, right? And that was enough. I mean, wherever we went, and mostly without any charging. I charged at home, and my wife loved it. So honestly, we are now thinking of buying a second-hand Leaf to be our second family car. But I know that I will take it over, so I will give my car to my wife basically to drive around the city, and I will use the Leaf, right? If it happens, or Zoe, if I get to buy one. So it's all good experiences.
I mean, 200 kilometers. It's similar. Tomek, can you do you have a sense of how the range on those two cars compares?
I haven't read anything about this, but I think it might be the same package, like the same kind of battery from Zoe. Remember that Nissan and Renault is the same
one
company.
family. Mm.
Yeah, so I think they just put it into Leaf, or at least the capacity is the same and the filling is quite the same. So
because you've also spent
200 is doable anytime.
So it's very similar. So it's basically about the packaging and the price. Renault has different often financing options for how you pay for the car and the battery. So it's sort of like
but now you can also just buy the car with batteries, and it's okay now. So it was for some time it wasn't possible.
So I mean, more or less, you've got a couple of options now on the market that I probably work for all of a normal person's needs, but might feel still like a risk for someone who doesn't have experience. Oh, I just see a protonic blue BMW i3 driving by. That beautiful blue. There's one of these, you know, the beautiful protonic blue i3 in the city. I see it a lot here. Anyway, well, I mean, I can say we have an i3 here, a 2015 BMW i3 Rex, which is 70 miles. I'm sorry, we're switching between kilometers and miles now. So it's 70 miles range electric, and then about 60 with a range extender if you ever use the gas tank. When I got the car home, got from the dealer, it was at like 6 miles of range, and the range extender tank was almost empty. So that was the closest I've had to like maybe kind of range anxiety, because I was like, man. But you know, this is a common story you get it from the dealer, and it's good we spent hours in the dealer, because he was slowly charging on a normal outlet while we were there. But I found with the i3, I mean, I filled up the Rex engine, the tank, right after we got it. It was $4.51 to fill up this little tank, and I haven't really used anything since, I think. But the 71 miles is deceptive in the i3, and I don't know if this applies to the Leaf and the Zoe as much, where if I turn on the air conditioning full blast in the super hot Florida heat, it'll jump from 71 to 51. So it'll lose 20 miles just turning on the air conditioning at a good level. And then you driving around with the air conditioning on fairly fast roads, I think it eats up. I haven't really tested, but I think it eats up the miles faster than it expects. So we don't have a problem because we have charging we don't have home charging, but we have charging at the store, at the beach, at the park, at the mall, everywhere we go, more or less, the library, there's charging stations. So we don't have a problem with it, but we do plug in almost everywhere because of this like range sort of getting eaten faster. So I could see that being a problem for people. I mean, with this car, you have the range extender, so it's a nice security, but I could see that being a problem if that kind of thing happens with the Zoe and the Leaf, but I don't have enough time with them to understand, can that happen with the Zoe and the Leaf where you turn on the air in the middle of the hot summer or something, you drive on a highway and all of a sudden you have a lot less range than you expected, or are they better at estimating this kind of thing?
I'm optimistic about the air conditioning. I do believe everybody is working on optimizing it so that it's not an issue, because everybody talks about it. And I worked for a company that manufactures all this FAC equipment, right? So hot and cold air. And one of the CEOs from Sweden told me that everybody is working on better air conditioning systems for electric vehicles, right? Because the winner takes... the winner takes it all, right? So whoever comes up with a solution that is fit for electric vehicles and doesn't take so much energy, you know, and it's happening. It will happen.
But even at this range of the Tesla's at, you don't think about it. Like I never thought with the Tesla, hey, how much is the air conditioning using? You don't even notice it. I think they have very good. It's just a large battery, good system. Tomek, do you have a sense that?
Yeah, I mean, I think more or less all the cars while warming up or with air conditioning are taking around 2 kilowatts per hour. Like if you're going to the maximum. So if the it's really hot, and so this is the I heard that Leaf is 1.8. I heard that Zoe is around 2, and these are numbers. So, but actually, if you are not you don't want the car to be very, very cold, and the temperatures outside are maybe not 40, but more like 25. It's after a few minutes when the car is cooled a bit. This air conditioning is not working fully. It's not.
Well, I mean, this is an extreme case. It's the middle of summer in Florida where it's hot as heck. You go outside and you start dripping in sweat. To try to make you guys not be upset at me for that. I'm not just on the beach having fun, but so I know it's an extreme case. At the same time, it's the extreme cases that are sort of the breaking points for normal buyers, where it might scare them away, or it might end up leaving a bad taste in their mouth if they have extreme cases like going up mountains or something where it's a problem. So is your impression with the new Leaf and the Zoe that really, even in extreme cases, it shouldn't surprise people with a punch to the jaw, like, oh shoot, the range is gone, or is it still like a kind of, you have to be an early adopter kind of mindset, ready for the challenge? I
think that everybody who drives ICEs, so internal combustion engines, are not really looking at the numbers what they are burning.
Yeah.
And electric cars, besides all other advantages they give, they also give this sense of how am I driving, how am I using the car, and it really helps in understanding in other areas that if we are pushing the pedal to the maximum, it's really whatever you drive, it burns a lot.
But the difference with the Tesla often is you don't have to have that mindset. You just drive, you use it as you want, air conditioning. I guess I found times with the Tesla where I still did have to have that mindset a little bit on the fastest on the Autobahn in Germany, for example. You go up to 150 kilometers an hour, and all of a sudden your range is like dropping quickly, and you're like, what the heck? But it's not something like that was a really problematic, but it was the point. There were some points with the Tesla with the cold, big long drives, fast highways, where you have to think about energy usage a little bit. What's your guys' experience with that, with the Tesla Shuttle service? What's your experiences with that? I mean, I just said mine basically. It's just something you think about sometimes.
As you said, going Wrocław to Berlin, when you jump on the motorway and you're tempted to go faster than you should, plus it's -10 outside.
And yes, the Tesla is always tempting you to go faster. That's the problem.
Yes, and it's so I had maybe 1 or 2 situations when I was like, I had to really, the car told me to slow down if I wanted to get to the supercharger. But that was all about it. It still let me go like 100, 110, not 50. So it was fine. But it's, as you said, you get used to it. As Tomek was saying, the sense of your kilowatts is always higher than the sense of, petrol liters, right? And you don't care, basically. But you're doing the same. You burn more with air conditioning on. You burn more when you press your foot on the pedal, and that's it.
And Tomek,
I don't know if you remember last year we did a hypermiling as a Tesla Shuttle. We did it in 100D, yeah.
Right.
That we
aimed for the record, but we were far off because
but we did 750, yeah.
750 kilometers, right? Without
yes.
Yeah, with no charging. So this is possible, but still, I think Tesla should consider soon giving a battery like 120 or 140, maybe even, just because for some people they will want to pay more, even if it leads there, and have this range just to have it. And,
I have a bit of a feeling. I mean, the last time he gave an update on it, he said there weren't any plans to go above 100 anytime soon. But
they seem to be improving the output of the battery so much that they don't need to really increase the capacity, but they will increase the output.
I don't know, Zach. Do you think they use this old 18650 in Tesla Model S?
I think they still do, and I assume they're going to change once production capability is high enough. Mm-hmm. And they've got the full redesign ready. I think they will change to that for the Model S and Model X as well, and they will give that, because I think, like you're saying, there's a kind of just remaining step for people who drive really long distances, who drive on the Autobahn, who drive have a business maybe with the car, like Tesla Shuttle, where that extra another 20 kilowatt hours of battery capacity would be like not a game changer, but it would be something you would pay for. And rich people, come on, so people who buy Teslas sometimes just, they're staggeringly rich, and they don't care for the money, but they would like the extra range for some trips. So it seems logical. So we had 2 things to still talk about, but we have to cut it off and do one, I think, and we'll save the next one for next week. You also have been testing electric vans, including the new longer range electric Nissan ENV 200 as a potential purchase. So, someone you're working with might purchase 170 of them, which would be a big deal, and you're going to make sure that Clean Technica breaks the news if that happens, I'm sure. But so you have some experience with that, but maybe we could save it for next week, because you have various vans you're looking at. And then you also recently test drove the Jaguar I-PACE, which I am jealous because I have not even, I've seen one maybe on display somewhere, but I'm very eager to drive it.
So it's available in the US, yeah?
Is
it available in the US?
I think not yet, no.
Okay.
I think it's starting because it's being produced in UK.
It's a beauty.
And you've seen it, Jacek, but you haven't driven or ridden in it, right? You've only seen it on display.
I've touched it,
You licked it a few times, right? I heard. Well,
just a few.
I mean, I heard about it. I don't know. It's just huge. But no. Tomek, can you explain? You've driven the Model X as well, Tomek, or just Model S?
Yeah, but just the test drive, like in Berlin, just.
Because that's what it really compares against. Well, can you say how you felt about it compared to Tesla vehicles?
I think if we compare to Model X, it's smaller just inside. It's a really nice, tiny SUV.
So it's
as
tiny.
quiet.
So it's more like a crossover. I thought it was about as.
You know, it's just a name, but the feeling is as it's much smaller and lighter car than Model X. But actually, I think that's really close to Tesla. That's not for me. It's not there, but it's like 80 or maybe even 90% of Tesla that you're looking for in the electric, really nice electric vehicle. So it's, I think it will really do. It will gonna be selling very well just because it's has servicing points and just shops in Poland, all over Poland, and Tesla is not having it.
Well, it seems like some reviewers, like we had a writer who, you know, who got to go to Portugal to test drive it in some beautiful scenery, got fed nice food, that kind of thing. I was a little like, I should take this trip, but but no, I don't. He really enjoyed it. But there are people like him. I think he's sort of preferred it over Tesla vehicles. He's only test driven Tesla vehicles a bit on a separate trip in the UAE, I think. But so some reviewers seem to favor it for the conventional aspects. It's been just getting rave reviews. People love it. Some people, of course, still prefer Tesla. Can you speak a little bit more? And you're not a Tesla fanboy. We have Tesla Shuttle Business Teslas. You love Tesla, but I know you have a very measured, like you're critical of Tesla when you're critical of it. You like the other leaders like Nissan. I don't think you have any bias for Tesla. So can you explain a little bit what, why is 80% not 120% in your eyes?
I just, you know, when you press the pedal, acceleration pedal, you don't see such a, like in the same second the move. It's much better than in any ICE car, but still it's not there. And maybe the suspension is a bit too high, just because in the corners it's a bit like not, for sure it's not so good as Model S. Maybe it's nearer to.
It might be because you're used to the Model S.
We have a friend. We have a friend. You know, the guy who has a Tesla rental company in Wrocław, and he mostly, like on a daily basis, he drives a Model X, and he drove Jaguar I-PACE 2 or 3 weeks ago. I talked to him, and he wasn't impressed.
Wow,
basically.
that's interesting.
Well, it's still it's a car. He said it's still a conventional car. It's not an electric vehicle. He complained about it, that it's too traditional inside. That what it has inside, it's just another Jaguar, right? So
that's very interesting.
He wasn't impressed with the acceleration either. But I could try to talk to him more to find out what his impressions were, because I didn't have time to do it. But that was my take from talking to him, that he basically wasn't impressed. And the car dealer from Jaguar was not impressed that he wasn't impressed, of course, because everybody else was, right?
Yeah. Well, you know, and there's certain people more inclined to give a beautiful review. But with the Model X2, that's really fascinating. This is the first I've heard these kind of comparisons. The Model X has a larger battery often in the bottom, and it was very optimized. I mean, it's like it's the hardest SUV to tip. It's almost impossible to tip it over, to roll it over. Tesla does an amazing job focusing on these, how they can maximize the benefits of an EV. So that's really interesting to hear. But something we came to repeatedly was it's not quite a competitor to the Model. You know, everyone says it's a competitor to the Model X. It's more a competitor to the gas cars in this class, right? So it's maybe more pulling people who want a nice.
I can tell you what attracts people to the Jaguar in Poland, because it's a real car company. I've heard it a few times. You know, it's a Jaguar, right? People know Tesla, but it's still something, you know, new, something that is not that hasn't been tested that much, and everybody talks about how it's going to fail soon, right, and go bankrupt. And here you have a Jaguar, right, that has dealerships all around, and I can see some rich people going for it today in Poland because it's a Jaguar, right? That's it. You know,
do you think
they're not going to compare it.
they might just want a nice SUV. They want, oh, Jaguar is a good brand. They
course.
go in, they're like, oh, this is our top Jaguar now. This is fully electric. And they're like, oh, I'll try that. You know, maybe don't even know Tesla. But
yeah, that's what's happening, you know. And they have the dealers. They have somebody to talk to. There is no Tesla store in Poland.
But two funny notes
as for
on that.
today.
I wrote
actually,
okay,
but actually, for the whole transition to electric, that's much better that we have such a companies as Jaguar or
Of course.
Yes.
Volkswagen that will give really compelling cars, and because
it's not to say that it's in any way bad or wrong. It's good, but it's just to say how people, you know, make the purchasing decisions. You know, they go for safety basically.
And I think that's the point. It's more growing the pie than just competing. But it is interesting to hear your perspectives and this guy's perspective that it's not quite a Tesla if you're looking for that kind of level of EV. But two things on it. Funny, you know, I published an article this weekend highlighting that Tesla is now passing up Jaguar in total global production. Not Jaguar Land Rover, the big group that's owned by Tata, which is a bigger, but Jaguar cars, you know, that you think of as a big conventional car company, actually produces less cars now than Tesla. So Tesla's getting to that level faster than I'm sure people realize. And the other thing is the I-PACE is in high demand, and now if you go in, I don't know, Tomek, you got to test drive one, but did they tell you anything about how long you would wait if you ordered one? Because basically
the Jaguar,
basically it's got a really long waiting list as well now.
But I think that the numbers are much smaller than for, I don't know, Model S, Model 13.
Smaller production overall, but still, like, you have to wait till next year sometime if you order one now, because there's so many people
I heard that maybe you will get one in winter. That's what I heard, but it was just, you know, unofficial. But it was a guy from Jaguar. So maybe something changed also, just because if they're showing the car to more and more people, just the numbers of interested people are rising.
Well, I'm sure we'll talk more about the I-PACE in coming episodes, and we'll talk about electric vans hopefully next week. Maybe you have more time with some, I don't know. But thank you to everyone who's been listening. We'll do our best to share useful experiences, perspectives on these cars, using Tesla for business, transport business.
And some good Tesla Shuttle news next week.
Yeah, and we have some news to start sharing as well. So thank you for watching and listening. Thank you, Tomek and Jacek.
Take care, guys.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Bye.